When we say charge on, we commit to do extraordinary things. It's a catalyst for action. To put in the work. To keep trying. It's a challenge. To be smarter and stronger. Charge on. It drives us to be more. To get after it every day. It's time to rise above. To let them know we're coming. Charge on. Charge on.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Research, Recovery, and Rescaling webinar. This is the fifth and final industry webinar in our series. I'm Susan Vernon Devlin, Manager of Communications and Marketing at Rosen College of Hospitality Management, and I will be your moderator today. First, a bit of housekeeping. Attendees, we will not be using the chat feature for this webinar. We will be using the question and answer feature. So during the webinar, if you have questions, please place them in the question and answer feature, and we will respond to them at the end of the presentation. If your question is the same or similar to another question that has been asked and answered, we will skip that question. If we happen not to get to your question before the end of the webinar, rest assured that we will try and contact you after the webinar to respond to your question. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Huang, Dean of Rosen College of Hospitality Management, to introduce our presenter for the day. Dr. Huang.
Thank you, Susan, for the introduction and the setup. Good morning. Greetings from UCF Rosen College of Hospitality Management. Right now, it is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, July 29th, 2020, Wednesday. It's a sunshine day in the state of Florida. Thank you for joining us today again for the fifth industry webinar focusing on innovation and adaptation amid the COVID-19 recovery. These seminars are designed to help the hospitality and tourism industry retool for the changes we are experiencing right now as our industry emerges from the effects of the COVID-19 virus. My name is Dr. Huang, and I'm Dean of the UCF Rosen College of Hospitality Management. One of the core tenets of university is the development of new knowledge through research. And the faculty at the UCF Rosen College of Hospitality Management are focusing on producing research that informs the decisions our industry faces on a daily basis. Usually, research starts with a question. And if participants today or your organizations have a question, we can help you find the answer. Later in the presentation, we will share information about how to start this collaborative process. Without further ado, I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Huang, to begin the presentation. Again, should you have any questions for the presenter today, please submit them through the Zoom question platform, and our moderator will deliver the question to the presenter on your behalf. Thank you again, and please enjoy the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arthur Huang. Thank you, Dr. Wang and Susan, for a nice introduction. I appreciate your interest and time for joining me today. My main area of research includes data analytics, artificial intelligence, and future of work. The title of my presentation is A Recipe for the Future, Innovation and Adaptation Amid a Post-COVID-19 Recovery. As the whole world has been impacted by COVID-19 and its ramifications, we're making many difficult decisions almost daily. For example, should we keep our children at home or send them to school this fall? I know me and my wife, we could debate about this quite a bit. How to find a job and how to keep my businesses survive and thrive. And you are not alone in all of these. In fact, according to a survey, about 70% of people experienced higher stress levels, and about 6% of people reported greater anxiety levels after post-COVID-19. So learning about how to live with stress and cope with anxiety is likely a huge takeaway lesson for all of us. From our experience and data analysis, we have learned that hospitality and tourism industry was hard hit by COVID-19, as we have seen widespread firms' temporary or permanent shutdowns and workers' layoffs due to canceled trips, events, and other activities. COVID-19 has not only affected the demand side, but also has disrupted the whole supply chain. Farm producers and seafood productions, originally targeted for hotels and restaurants, were in a rush to identify alternative outlets. And due to the perishability of the goods and little room for inventory, many farmers have to dump them or significantly reduce production. In addition, as more and more goods and services are delivered by logistic companies, there have existed different levels delays in delivery, which has further impacted the end service. The impact on the whole supply chain will likely to continue in the post-COVID-19 world. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, we used the big data analytics and statistical learning methods to understand the impact COVID-19 on the economy and human behavior. So I'm going to show some findings from my own research or from other publications. So this chart shows the restaurants closures reported on Yelp.com. So for restaurant, you can see that about as of June 15th, permanent closures on Yelp.com account for 53%, and most of them are small and individually owned restaurants. For retail and shopping, about 35% of them were permanently shut down. So regarding a change of share of relative consumer interest on Yelp, since May, there has been a growing interest in fondue and tap bars, and there's a decreased interest in pizza and Chinese food. Also on the hotels and travel side, there's a revived interest in RV rental and resorts, but not on air transportation and taxi services. Individual-based or family-based travel is more popular now due to security and safety concerns. For nightlife, there's increased passion for pool halls and lounge, and events such as gyms and bowlings also gain much interest. So these are some of the natural humans' responses after being locked down for some period of time. My group further examined the evolution of consumer credit card expenditure over time compared with January. So this chart shows the expenditure on merchandise stores. It shows that this industry has pretty much recovered back to the prior pandemic level in terms of sales. And here it shows the expenditure on healthcare and social assistance services. And it has bounced back to about level close to the prior pandemic level. As far as the credit card expenditure in arts, entertainment, and recreation, we're still about 30% to 40% lower than the January level. For expenditure on transportation, warehousing, we remain about 30% to 50% level lower. We also analyzed job posting data from the Burning Glass, a major data company collecting online job posts. So here's the trend. After reopening from late April, the number of new job postings was on the rise in June and started to decline again. We're still about 30% lower compared with January in the leisure and hospitality industry, and a significant portion of these jobs were non-salaried hourly jobs. The rideshare services have also experienced significant drops, now about 60% to 80% lower compared with previous years in demand, due to individuals' reduced travel and concerns about disease spread. At the same time, meal delivery services have risen significantly compared with previous years, with DoorDash accounting for 44% of market share, Uber Eats and Grubhub respectively 23%. Uber recently acquired Postmates, hoping to increase market share in food delivery services. And due to the cost of third-party apps and reduced demand on indoor guests and COVID's ramifications on supplies, small and medium restaurants face significant challenges. A Bank of America report shows that chain restaurants recover about 30% faster than individually owned restaurants. There were even news reports wondering what happens when the only restaurant left are chains. Compared with the chain restaurants or public traded companies, small businesses lack substantive financial or technical resources in adapting to a new reality. So today I'm going to shed light on the innovation adaptation of businesses in the post-COVID-19 world. My recipe for the future includes 3 key ingredients. First, new guest experience. Second, technological adaptation. And third, stronger partnerships. History has attested to the fact that crises often lead to long-lasting changes, such as strict aviation security measures after 9/11, women joining the workforce in the post-World War II era, to today's gender equality and equal pay movement, and fast movement of e-commerce after SaaS. As we are standing at the crossroads of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, COVID-19 will likely expedite new changes that will likely happen. The Boston Consulting Group has analyzed the potential spending implications of having more time at home, such as more investments on home improvement projects, electronic payments, delivery services, and online entertainment, etc. The need for travel and tourism services naturally goes down. So what can we do to revive the businesses in the travel industry? So the first ingredient I have is to develop innovative guest experience under the new normal. First, when reopening and creating new procedures, businesses must be aware of the shift in expectations and create new policies and operations which will meet or exceed guests' new heightened cleanliness standard. This expectation will likely last for extended period of time in the post-COVID-19 world. Second, effective communication. Companies' apps, social media websites, and signages can all be used to ensure guests are receiving the most up-to-date information. And it is important to inform the guests about what extra steps have been done to provide another level of safety and security for guests. New protocols and guidelines implemented throughout all aspects of information must be easily available for guests to access. Third, personalized services. Although traditional face-to-face service will likely to be reduced to a minimum, guests still desire personalized services. For example, front desk and concierge roles could be more directed to helping guests utilize new technologies such as apps and other new technologies. Technologies will always have issues during implementation, like what we experienced just now. There are many ways to reduce guest anxiety and enhance satisfaction. Empirical studies have revealed that customer satisfaction in general is one of the most important factors in determining an organizational success and efficiency. For example, TripAdvisor launched the Travel Safe initiatives, which allow businesses who are partnered with them to add their safety measures to a listing and provide various suggestions and tips on what safety measures should be taken. Other tips for businesses to best utilize features are select the safety measures which apply to businesses, update your information regularly, remind guests to write a good review about safety and security measures that your organization has taken, and focus on where you can make the most impact. The theory behind this is a precaution principle, which suggests approaching issues of potential harm when extensive scientific knowledge on the matter is lacking. For example, there's a research on the pandemic transmission model. The findings suggest that the face mask use should be nearly universal and nationwide, even if most masks are homemade. Following the rules such as social distancing and wearing masks is not only about curbing the spread of disease, but also about enhancing the guest's sense of security and safety when they use a certain service, and thus impact consumer satisfaction. So we predict that there will be several behavioral changes due to COVID-19. There will be greater embrace of digital technologies. The economic restructuring during the COVID-19 pandemic is a harbinger of a more fundamental transformation of our industry driven by powerful digital technologies like AI. And consumers will be more receptive to the adoption of new technologies in the post-COVID-19 world. Second, consumers would need greater sense of personal protection. Face-to-face interactions with strangers or service providers will likely dwindle. Third, density is less desirable. Images showing a packed restaurant or theme park would make guests frown these days. If someone posts on social media, it will go viral. Fourth, there's a greater need for visibility on cleanliness and sanitization. It is no longer just an issue about personal comfort or preference. It is more about being reminded that actual precaution measures have been taken so that guests' anxiety and the stress levels will go down. My second ingredient is technological adoption, which is tied to the consumer behavior I mentioned just now. The advancement of technologies in many cases would replace or improve traditional face-to-face services. For example, Marriott expects to expand the use of its mobile key technology from the current 1,800 hotels to all 7,000 hotels by the end of 2020. At the same time, there has been a significant shrinkage of workforce. For another example, the NYC F&W Festival created at-home experience, which benefits a lot of our local restaurants. Guests would purchase a ticket and gain access to select wine listings via Zoom link to cook and ask questions with celebrity chefs. Festival will have to take a creative approach to attract guests. So this is a creative way to promote events and to help local business community. A similar experience is an Oklahoma Craft Beer Festival. So guests purchased a ticket and went to a location, pick up 24 different craft beers, and received a Zoom link to have a guided tasting with brewmasters. The beer festival was a huge success, and they were about to profit over $50,000 and promote it via social media and involved a lot of local communities. In addition, VR, AR technologies have been increasingly adopted in MICE industry for remote conferences while aiming to provide an experience as real as possible. So here is a first full XR conference in South Korea in March, where speakers and attendees were recognized through their customized avatars made specifically for this event. And they hosted over 1,000 attendees from 55 countries. Also, as people reduce travel, virtual tools become popular. So what is a virtual guided tool? It is not virtual reality. It is a licensed guide-led webinar packed with photos, videos, and polls and interactive features to attract guests. And it has been applied to many famous destinations like Paris, Rome, etc. Robotic technologies will likely receive greater attention and investments. So here's an example of a robotic server used in restaurants, which can recognize different tables and bring food to the guests. So here's a video about it.
Definitely futuristic, and it really did keep us coming back because it was fun for the kids.
They were all like checking out Penny, following Penny. So Penny was a massive drawer of attention.
You can see the energy, the enjoyment of the technology and the experience. You really see these kids who come in and they just have wonder in their eyes. They just can't believe what they're seeing.
Videos and cameras and selfies.
We were taking pictures and videos and Facebook posts and that kind of stuff.
You could see around the restaurant people were entertained by that.
Sometimes they mention it to me like they come like, oh, I want to sit in the robot section.
We now have Bear Robotics in 10 locations. I was like, I need them in every space. They're just a very unique way to present food.
So this video was made prior to the pandemic. So I'm assuming guests will be more interested in these kind of new services where these different robots are able to recognize different tables and deliver food to them and use the plates back to the kitchen. And here is another futuristic KFC restaurant in Moscow, showcasing how to prepare fast food in a way of like a mass manufacturing. So the last ingredient about building about a future is building stronger partnerships. Small businesses face many challenges such as labor shortage, supply shortage, unstable customer flows these days. So they're having successful models in addressing these challenges. For example, as the food retail sector and devastated many food services, a unique solution is taking shape in Germany, where grocery chain masters Aldi have signed agreement with McDonald's Germany. They'll refer workers from a burger chain to the retail stores quickly and efficiently. It's an interesting employee sharing model. Building strong partnerships and coalitions may help small businesses to stay more strenuous under unexpected and swiftly changing environments. For workers, investing in transferable skills and building employee sharing models will be a viable path for protecting both workers and businesses. So this chart from another study illustrates this idea. So 3 circles of customers, employees, and suppliers are interconnected. Focusing on improving the core competency in these 3 core areas would help businesses weather bigger changes amid difficult economic times. As the current PPP loans expire, and I also believe that Congress should also pass laws with specific measures to support small businesses in these difficult economic times. And this chart further illustrates the skill transferability between jobs and between industry. I think there's a great potential for research in this area to look at how workers' skills can be transferred between jobs and between industries to help enhance workers' agility and businesses' profitability. And my research group actually is working on building a comprehensive taxonomy to address this systematic issue at industry level. So in summary, I believe through creating new guest experience, technological adaptation, and building stronger partnerships will support the travel industry to survive and thrive. Machine learning is useful for providing insights from massive data and guide the future steps. By working together and building a virtuous public-private academic partnerships, we'll create a brighter future for the hospitality and tourism industry. Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Arthur. We appreciate your presentation and we thank our participants for sticking with us through our little challenge here. So let's now get to our question and answers. So please go ahead and put your questions in the question and answer feature on the webinar so that we can get to them right now. Okay, Arthur, your first question is, if one ingredient is missing from your recipe, because you had guest experience, technological adaptations, and stronger partnerships, will the recovery be more challenging?
I think so, because we're looking at not just a short-term recovery, we're looking at long-term recovery, and even find a great opportunity to expand the services and looking for new opportunities. These different ingredients should be implemented at different times. Maybe the business should start to think about what are the technology I should be using for marketing, for long-term investments, for new types of services, right? Partnerships will be would help meet both short-term and long-term needs as well. A new guest experience, such as cleaning and sanitization and marketing, all these different measures will be important for enhancing guest experience.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Tyler. What specific skills for those who are in the hospitality industry would you recommend focusing on to provide the most flexibility in our career?
This is a great question. The short answer is it varies by particular type of jobs you would like to work on. What we have seen from our literature review and data analysis is that there's an increasing trend of combined jobs. For example, let's say you work for small restaurants, right? Your traditional work is to, take care of guests and make payments and, etc. And maybe there's a need for a restaurant to create a website or maintain a website, right? So if you have any skills tied to that, will be helpful. So at this point, I would say a lot of digital technology related skills, even including the UI, website design, server maintenance, All these skills are not difficult to learn, and you don't really need a BS in computer science to do that. And there's so many courses, even free courses online that you can learn. So if you are in, lifelong learning mode, you'll gradually pick up those skills and make sure you show that on the resume, because the employers might be looking for multiple skills that are not stated on the job posting.
Thank you, Arthur. We have a question from Mackie. The concept of partnership is really amazing. How do you see this continuing post-COVID?
I think there will be more and more, different kinds of associations or coalitions that may show up, especially among like small businesses, because they are looking for ways to protect themselves. And by working together and sharing resources, sharing information, and supporting each other is critical for the resilience of all the businesses.
Okay, thank you. A question here. Robotics seem to be challenging the human worker. How can we adapt?
Robotics, yeah, it is it is a challenging topic, right? There are many conferences talking about how do you handle robotics versus, laying off people, right? So there are direct implications on reduction of workforce. That is, it is a fact. But I think for human beings, we need to adapt to new reality. That also means we need to learn new skills. So hopefully we'll be able to be in a position that we're able to manage robots or use robots to help us do a better job, and hopefully they'll lead to higher paying positions.
Thank you for that. I recently watched Terminator again, and it talked all about the robots, and so
yeah,
that's quite an interesting prospect that we may be facing that completely. Okay, we have a question here from Neha. How would you handle hiring people who may have very good customer service skills but lack computer skills? And I know you've been doing some research in AI and other things that workers may need to look at for their future in the industry.
Yeah, so I think education on digital literacy is very important because, given COVID-19, people will be used to or even be welcoming contact-free services, right, for personal security and safety purposes, So a lot of traditional front desk services might be, like I mentioned, geared toward guiding people on using those services. So the digital literacy and a lot of technology-related skills will be useful. It does not mean that everybody needs to learn how to code or how to program, but being adaptive to new technologies, be open-minded to learning new things is of great importance.
Do we have any other questions? I don't see any more within the question and answer feature right now. Any questions from our fellow panelists, Dr. Huang, Dr. Crows? Well, I guess we have no more questions right now. We will be sharing Arthur's presentation and the video through our YouTube channel and on our website. As I said, thank you so much, Arthur, for this presentation. It was amazing and very interesting and very compelling. This is the last of our research rescaling webinars for industry. You can find all of the webinars that we previously presented on the Rosen College website at hospitality.ucf.edu. Under the research tab, look for the Dick Pope Institute for Tourism Studies, and you will find all the information there. You can look at the previous presentations that we've presented throughout the summertime and also the videos. So I want to thank everyone for participating in our webinar series. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, Dr. Huang. Thank you, Dr. Crows, for formulating this webinar series. I think it's all been very, very helpful for us this summer. In the fall, we're hoping to look at another webinar series, possibly looking at the research that our researchers have been conducting throughout the summertime. So I want to thank everyone for their help on this, and also for the tech support from OII. It's been really important for us to present this information to you all throughout the summertime, and we hope that this has been helpful. Thank you once again and have a great day.
Thank you.